Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. I'm Sohal, and this is the Real IT Bites Early Career Professional series. This is the fourth discussion that we're having in the series, and I have Helen Winter joining me today. And the topic is on success stories, #Be the Change. So a fairly broad topic, so we'll be going into sort of many different areas in what we feel have been important success factors in our career, and we'll be hopefully imparting those with you and just sharing those ideas, and hopefully with some interaction we can get some questions and answers going sort of towards the end as well. So Helen, do you want to say hi?
Hello, hi everybody. Thanks for inviting me, Jag.
You're welcome, thank you. So I'll go a bit into the purpose of this series. So hopefully you can all see this. So the purpose of these talks are that I've sort of came about 8 talks, and a thank you to the BCS for taking my idea on board and really providing the framework, structure and communication to get these talks out there as well. I'm Sohal and I work at NFU Mutual. I've been in the IT industry for 14 years, worked across various different industries, and 7 years or so of that career has been within business relationship management. These webinars are consisting less of theory and more around career stories, so really bringing industry guests with me to help share those stories, which I think is really important, and another way of really learning from other people's experiences as well. It is aimed at young career professionals, so really in that sort of 18 to 24 age bracket, looking to step into a career, and hopefully these talks will help you make that first step, make that leap into what is a very exciting IT industry. So that's my purpose, to increase a diverse pool of talent into the digital and IT industry. And really this is your opportunity to ask myself and our industry guest speakers any questions or any concerns, any myths that you might have, and we're here to kind of help you with that. And every guest speaker is committed to being contactable as well via LinkedIn for you. So we'll continue with the talk that we have today, Helen, and it's around, as I said, success stories, but I'd really like to know what does that mean to you? What does success look like?
So for me, success is leaning in. So what I mean by that is actually sort of trying, because quite often it's sort of, you might not necessarily get there the first time you try something, but it's having that tenacity and to keep going. So I think I've had some sort of stages of my life where you kind of think, oh, I'm not going to try because you won't do it. And it's having that growth mindset to just give things a go, because it's only by giving things a go that you can kind of learn from it and move forward. So to me, that's what success means to me, is actually, making those steps and actively trying.
And when we talk about success, we don't really mean in a hierarchical sense either. Success might be, you land in your first job, or you then start in your initial space within IT and move on to another job. But it's wherever you land, and it's whatever you make the most, whatever value you can cultivate for yourself in that role. What I think success really is it kind of makes your job easier when you apply some of the techniques that we sort of talk about.
Yeah, and that's it. It's one of those things where you might not necessarily realise it straight away, but there are lots and lots of things that you can sort of achieve each day that sort of steps towards being more successful. And it's sometimes appreciating those things, like when you've learned a new skill or you talk to a new person. Those things all kind of count, don't they, really?
Yeah. So just a kind ask for people. I know we've had a lot of people join and some people are joining quite regularly. Please feel free. It's obviously a personal thing, but put your webcams on if you like, and we can make it a bit more interactive for myself and Helen as well. And I've only got a tiny laptop screen, so it's very black at the moment. So if you pop your webcams on, that'd be great for us, I think. So Helen and I had a conversation earlier in the week, which sort of goes through some of the topics that we wanted to cover. And we're going to play that for you now. So, hi Helen.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Jack. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. And it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining me to have this conversation. The talk is around success stories and essentially around those success factors around your early career. So you and I have been in the industry for quite some time, and I really wanted to for both of us to reflect on our early years in the career that we now have built a foundation on, and we've rebuilt on the successes of what we did in those early years. So if you'd like to talk a bit about your journey from early doors.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure. I've never been sure what I wanted to do as a career. So I wanted to do a course, a degree that was quite practical, where I could get a job easily afterwards. So I did quite a practical course at Staffordshire University on business information technology. So it was a course designed specifically around what companies wanted for hybrid managers. So it was a real mixture of learning about computing, business, project management. It included lots and lots of different aspects of it. So it was quite good because it led me afterwards to when I was looking for my first job after university, because it had so many sort of elements as part of it. I got my first job as a consultant, and it started off a very small consultancy, and over the couple of years it grew bigger and bigger, so that it ended up being a consultant for quite a big consultancy. And then what I did then is, because I'd gone straight into moving down to London, I didn't know anybody, I wanted a different job where I knew where I could be each day. So I took a job, and thinking about it now, it was probably a step back, because I took a job as a developer. And I think after about a year, I kind of realised that I missed the interaction elements, the communication. So I asked whether I could move into business analysis. And initially I got told you can't, because it's a promotion. So what I ended up doing, and what I encourage anyone to do that wants to get into something, because what I've found is that people very rarely say no if you volunteer to do things. So I managed to establish a rapport with somebody who was already a very experienced business analyst. And I got there. It so happened by chance, she didn't have a very good working relationship with the project manager, and I did. So she was really willing for me to help. So she would coach me on what to do, and then I would actually then follow through. And it started off, I'd shadow her, and then as time went by, I'd then take over more and more of the meeting, and she provided that guidance. And then one of the things I did was that anytime anybody said, "Oh, that was good, Helen," I'd then get them to email or phone the business analyst manager to let them know, so she knew who I was. And I already had, like, I was having monthly conversations with her in terms of how do I get into it. And initially it was, you can't, because it would be a promotion and you have to wait till one comes up. You can't just do it. But it got to the point where I got persuaded them to let me do all the qualifications. I was already doing a lot of that type of stuff anyway. So eventually, after lots and lots of persistency, they can't, I was able to actually then move into it properly. So it did take quite a lot of tenacity. But that's the thing, it's sort of like, if you can keep proving your worth and keep making sure you keep regular contact with the people that are of influence that can make the change, so they know who you are, you're making sure that you're the first person they think of when they do need it, the people. So that was quite a big learning curve for me, in terms of, finding out, actually, if you are persistent enough and you make sure that you try hard, you can actually benefit in the end.
No, I think it's important you sort of set yourself a goal, and then it was just a way of navigating your way sort of towards it in a really healthy way.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a little bit of luck as well. Like the one day, the head of the department wanted people to encourage people to hand in an application, but hand in this form on time. And he said the first 2 people to hand it in would get to go for a drink with him, and that was brilliant because obviously then I was able to say to him, these are my ambitions, make him aware of it, and what I'd had. And he said, well, Helen, I promise you, you know, when something comes up, I will make sure that you're the first person considered. And he kept his promise. But it was good. So it is networking and making sure people are aware that that's what you want to do. And you can kind of proactively show, look, these are all the documents I've written. This is all the evidence. Because sometimes, especially people higher up, they don't know the lower level of detail. They don't know your experience or what you do. So you kind of have to, you know, make sure you can sort of evidence what you say you can do, you know, and try and get that experience.
Exactly. It's almost keeping that sort of headline about repeating the message about what you're here for, what you actually then want to go on to do, and having that in their mind. So exactly as you said, they then know they can nominate you for something, a special project or special task that they can then say, well, I know someone who can actually, you know, be interested in doing that.
Because that's it, you know, they're busy people, they're not going to like, you know or, you know, automatically know, but it's just being able to, you know, see whether it's sort of like have a sort of one-to-one session if possible, or in a group, and just create that awareness really, and be able to build up that evidence, because that's one of the first things they're going to ask, you know what I mean? And it's like by the time, you know, a job came up, I had the qualifications, I'd got loads of documentation, delivery behind me, you know, it just makes it harder for people to say no.
You sound like you're very open to feedback. Do you think that's something you've sort of always had the ability to have, or something you sort of learned to say, oh, I need to be open to feedback?
I found it really difficult at first because I used to become my own worst critic, and it came to a point where I realised it was worth asking for feedback, because sometimes I would assume that I'd got things wrong, or assume things that when I got feedback I realised it wasn't true. And sometimes if people did give me feedback that I wasn't expecting, it's either if I didn't agree with it, I could then explain my side of the story, or I could then look at what I could do differently. So actually, over time, I've learned it's a really good and real powerful thing, because you can't do something about it if you don't know. And also, if you don't realise what your strengths are, then that can be a problem as well. So it's understanding where you can add most value and what people think and what else you can add to it, really.
Yeah. I think that's something I, you know, similarly, I would probably, if I was in an early career, is build that network around me and let those people know, you know, if you see me, if you observe me doing something, I want that feedback from you. So it's probably better to get it from people that you trust at that point in your early career. And you know, whether you get that feedback unexpectedly or not, I think the other thing is try and have the mindset to say, well, that person's trying to give me feedback because they want to see me do better. You know,
exactly.
They're not really there to hamper you, they're there to help.
Yeah, exactly. People want you to do well. And sometimes, you know, when I've given feedback to other people, sometimes it's just one little small things. It's small things that the differences that people can make, you know. So it's sort of like you just want them to kind of like grow and blossom. And, you know, it's why it's sort of so useful, I guess. Like a really good example was years ago, I started to write my own, I call it an online magazine rather than a blog. And I always remember one of my friends saying to me, I haven't seen you share your blog. Who's looking at it? You know, how's it doing? And I went, I don't know, I've not told anybody. And they went, oh, you said you've written 30 articles. I have. Then why haven't you told anybody? It's like, oh, I'm scared of getting feedback. And my friend went, well, surely some feedback's better than no feedback.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, it's like, oh well, okay, yes.
And now, since you made that change, that blog is actually quite prominent now, isn't it?
Oh gosh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it gets about 5,000 visitors a month, and some of the articles are extremely popular. So yeah, and it led on to me writing a book and things like that. So it's I think the biggest thing really is to not be scared of feedback and to kind of put yourself out there, get other people to say whether they like it or not, rather than yourself, especially if you're kind of critical of yourself and everything. So yeah, that's it, making people aware.
Good. And I suppose, what we've talked about is, you could say it's an unstructured way of doing things, it's spotting opportunities, or it's making that sort of stakeholder or that person aware to say, I'm interested in XYZ. I suppose a more structured way of doing things would be to have a development plan. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I did a development plan recently, sort of thinking about where do you want to be, in the sort of short term, where do you want to be in like 5 years and even 10 years time. And sort of even sometimes there's an exercise I did recently where you do your CV, what you want your CV to look like in 10 years time, because it's really good because you then start thinking about what are the manageable chunks I can do to get there. So for example, if we want to move into a particular career, you can talk about what qualifications, what networking can you do, what professional associations, because there's, almost every type of career, there's professional associations of volunteers that you can join, that quite often like have events you can go to and people you can learn from. Yeah,
so I think, there's a whole subject area around development plans, but I think our advice would be to do that sort of short, medium to longer term view. And then you can have the bigger goals, the bigger sort of statement that you want to then kind of manifest towards, but realistically get those small to medium goals in there and start to share that plan with others to get a view as to ideas and how you can sort of navigate towards them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's breaking that down, because otherwise it can be a bit overwhelming if you've kind of just got one thing. It's like, how do you break it down? How do you go about getting those skills and that experience to get there? What does it involve? What bits can you take, to do that? But there's so much choice in terms of courses and professional qualifications and LinkedIn, and being able to find people that are in those sort of areas that you want. Quite often each week I have like virtual coffees with different people, and like we work out, like how we can kind of help each other out and things like that. It's just quite often it's networking, and it helps kind of get those sort of opportunities.
And around sort of having a mentor as well, did you sort of recognise the need or understanding of what a mentor was in your early career, or did that come later?
I suppose when I first started in my career in business analysis, I had a mentor that kind of helped. And I suppose as I've gone through my whole career, even now I have a mentor. So it's always useful to have somebody that you can go and sort of bounce ideas off, that can kind of guide you. So I think no matter where you are in your career, having a mentor could be really, really valuable.
Yeah. And it's just about, I think, finding that right mentor match for where you are on your journey, how you like to be communicated with, because mentors can have a different way depending on sort of what mentor you choose. And, there's many ways that the BCS, for example, they've got a huge mentorship program that anybody, can leverage as well. So that would be a really good place to start.
Yeah, that's it, and it's sort of like, there's so many sort of specialists in different areas. So for example, when I wrote a book, I had somebody who's a mentor that was a specialist in book publishing, so they were able to share their knowledge with me and teach me how to break it down to write it. So it's always sort of, once you know what type of area you want to move into, you can then look at, who would be suitable to be able to mentor.
Absolutely. So you and I, Helen, we have actually worked together, and we were part of two different teams, and I just wanted to touch on how we achieved successful outcomes based on, I suppose, a lot of what we've just discussed. It was understanding each other's worlds, really, each other's challenges. So for myself as a business relationship manager, I am out there and my team are scouting for demand and shaping those ideas that will require some underpinning IT technology. And Helen, with her team, is a team of business analysts who would be then, well, Helen, do you want to explain?
Okay, yeah. So at the time, I had a team of business analysts, and at the time, it was there's a bit of frustration that when by the time the business analysts got the work, their solution had already been decided, and then they'd find that they didn't understand what the context or the problem was.
Yeah.
And so came up with this idea of, wouldn't it be good if at the beginning that more people were involved to kind of help shape it? So wouldn't it be good if it included somebody from the business analysis world and the architecture world, as well as the business relationship manager, that could actually, at the very, very beginning, help make sure that all the things that were needed related to the project were kind of understood up front. So was the problem understood? Were the options understood? And that type of thing. So that was kind of, I suppose, really valuable in terms of working out how to do it, because obviously it was quite a big thing at the time, wasn't it? You know, it was kind of a change in how the company was used to doing things. And so it was, I guess we had a chat, didn't we? And we kind of talked about having a little pilot to kind of prove the value of it. And we sort of did a pilot together, didn't we? Got people from the architecture side as well, and
yeah,
you found somebody from the business you thought would be a good candidate for doing it, and it was really, really successful, wasn't it? People really bought into it.
Yeah, it just meant there was a richer understanding of that business need and that business problem, and it was contextualised in a way that everybody could understand it. And those stakeholders, when they saw what we could actually produce working together, they then leveraged that, didn't they? They used it in their proposals, so their documentation on how they wanted to pitch their ideas to potential suppliers and things like that. So really good quality content, and we were all doing our part, really. We all played our part, didn't we?
Yeah, that was it. And I think if we tried to do a big bang approach, it wouldn't have worked. But because we sort of picked a kind of a small pilot to demonstrate it with, it kind of really helped bring people on. And I know we both went and talked to all the different teams involved and kind of helped get their buy-in.
Yeah, and obviously we've sort of changed our careers now in sort of terms of working for the organisations, but we know that they've sort of held on to that process, and it still works. So I think it was just a really neat little success story to say that when you've got those skills but competencies and those abilities to interact with other departments and start to understand what could we do here that can bring about some real interesting change, is that we actually did it. So something that just involved just a few more extra people, a bit more expertise at the early stage of demand, just reaped so much reward going forwards.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember, there was a view that they knew what the solution was, and when we went back and we looked at got them to do like a problem statement, sort of the realisation that actually it didn't solve the actual problem, and then having the architect there, they were able to kind of talk about other solutions and constraints that we wouldn't have come up with otherwise. It really kind of helped sort of shape the start of it. So yeah, it was really good.
Excellent. And so I suppose just to round things up then, Helen, your early career advice to me sounds like to be vocal, as I've said on my previous talks as well, and make your intentions known. And there's two sides to this. There's this sort of unstructured way of just seizing those opportunities, seizing the day. But then there's this real structured way of doing things, which is your development plan, starting to put things on paper in a structured way. That's your development plan, and your CV as well. Really hone it in and to tailor it to what you want.
Yeah, and get feedback on your CV is one of the things I'd recommend, because there might be things that you don't realise that people will look for, and making sure you've got those sort of key points, make sure it's actionable, and if you can make those things measurable to kind of show. And what I look for when I look at people's CVs is I look for it to actually relate to projects, so rather than it just being talking about theory that you may have just written out of a book, it's like showing where you've practically applied where possible. And things like soft skills are valued very highly as well. So don't underestimate some of the sort of skill sets that employers will be looking for.
Thank you so much for your time today, Helen, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you, Jag.
Thank you.
Bye.
Quite a lot covered there in terms of our topics, wasn't there, Helen?
Yes. Yeah.
And just to really recap there, the key points were you're kind of in control of your own destiny, really. And when it comes to self-development, yes, there are sort of those external influences, having a mentor or having a coach, but they can't really make you kind of, make those first moves, really. So it's about making those first steps. And, when you are in a position where you've got the role, then really emphasizing the enthusiasm to really wanting to get involved. That's the element of #BeTheChange, is you kind of more than just the role. And I think IT shifting to that mindset, where you need to kind of get involved in much more activities that are happening around that department or wider than that as well. So if there's a general improvement project, or if there's a workshop and they're looking for volunteers, it's really about putting your hand up and getting involved there. So we've had some interaction on the chat, haven't we? And we've had one query on, again, it's around making that first step, isn't it, Helen?
Yeah, so there's a few on here about, getting your first job, I think is one of the common themes. And I mean, from my experience in terms of looking for work, and especially the early stages, is pick up the phone, talk to recruiters. If they remember who you are, the more they know about you, the more they can think of other roles that might be suitable, and the more likely they are to contact you if they find something suitable. So that was kind of one of the first things that I hadn't had a chance to go back to sort of Katie with, is that, see whether you can have conversations. Like the best I found that I was more likely to get interviewed and more likely to hear replies with where I'd managed to build a rapport with the recruiter. The other thing is to don't get too disheartened if you feel that you've sent your CV to lots of places and you feel you don't hear back. Sometimes people advertise just to collect CVs. They don't necessarily have, it's perspective. So sometimes the jobs aren't always there. So that's another reason for talking to the recruiter and finding exactly where it's from. They quite often will say, we can't tell you the company, but if you push it, sometimes quite often they do. And the other thing is if you can find target companies you want to work for and apply direct. And sometimes I've found that the best way. I've kind of thought, right, I want to work in this area, and I think about what type of company do I want to work for. And they've got their own vacancies advertised on the websites. So, from experience, I've found that I've got better response rates where I've applied direct as well. So I think they're some of the main things. Okay, and then just looking at this around people that are starting off into courses to new areas. So I think Dave says he's looking at some free courses, find what suits, engages me. Yeah, this is where, just say yes to things, just give things a go and find out what interests you most. You might think start a course and then find it doesn't interest you as much. Or find mentors, talk to people in that area. If you can, I think someone gave me some really good advice once, and you've got LinkedIn, look at, follow people who's doing the type of job you think you might want to do, and see whether you can connect with them and follow them and see what they post about. That can kind of help as well, building those connections up.
I think we're quite fortunate, we are in a world where there are so many free resources available to us as well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You've got there's so many sources now, isn't there? Information. You've got LinkedIn. There's lots of universities that are doing sort of part-time courses that are just a few hours a week. I did one recently with Oxford University, of all places, where wanted to do one on women in leadership. So I was able to sign up for that. And, a lot of these courses they do make quite practical now, and it's easier than ever to keep in touch with the other people on the courses, so you can find out how they've progressed and keep in touch with them that way as well. Virtual coffees. I think that's one of the benefits of being at home is, ideally it'd be nice to meet people, but you can have virtual coffees with anyone, can't you now? So quite often once a week I'll have a virtual coffee with someone I've never met before, and we'll just have a chat, and they'll have a chat about about themselves, and it's just nice to work out how you can kind of help each other.
Yeah. Okay, so Dave, you have more than wonderful, Dave. So you can unmute yourself as well. Hello.
You're all right.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Good. So do you want to expand on any more what you think you might need to overcome in terms of hurdles or anything?
Yeah, I mean, like in my current role, I'm a teacher, funnily enough, using a work laptop, and I'm a computing lead, so like it doesn't really, computing lead in a primary school is very different to having computing knowledge in maybe a computing role.
Yeah.
So I've sort of always used computers kind of, administratively. I'm sort of all right with them. I can use Office and that sort of stuff. And I don't know where I want to position myself within trying to get an IT role. I think that's what I struggle with. So I sort of looked at, there are lots of courses on the Open University and cover lots of different areas. But, without spending all of my time going through all of those courses, I just wondered if there was like a way of sort of finding out what different areas of IT there are and what that works like, so that I could start to drill down, okay, maybe this is what I want to try and do for a while. And if that doesn't work out, that's fine. I'll have picked up some skills along the way, and then maybe look at what else I could do. Fantastic.
I think IT, there are different layers to it, so you could start right from the top in terms of strategy, which is the world that I sort of reside in. Then there's change, program and project change. Level below that then I suppose is a service and service delivery, and within that I suppose links in with infrastructure and networking and the sort of more hard technical skills as well. But like you said, there's a catalogue of roles available, and we talked about Katie wanting to go into cyber and things like that. I think it'd be really useful for you to sort of even look into the BCS mentoring scheme to secure yourself.
I was going to say that,
to just have, and obviously we're available as well, but just to have that development discussion to understand. So you've got the idea, what strengths can you bring? There's initial capabilities that you're then wanting to build upon. And Helen's point about building a network of recruiters around you. We've got some fantastic networking organisations in the Midlands, and I've worked with some incredible recruiters in the area. So I'm more than happy to speak to you separately and send some contacts your way.
That'd be great.
So and likewise, Katie, I'm happy to, if you add me onto LinkedIn, anybody, I'm happy to share some contacts with you all. Helen, is there anything else you'd sort of allude to or suggest?
Yeah, are you the only person that does IT stuff at this school?
There are a few others through the academy. We have a guy called Giles Hill who heads up our digital learning, and that sort of attracted some interest. But especially through lockdown with yeah, it's all kind of very different, isn't it, very quickly. So,
yeah, because one of the things, if you've got peers that are already doing that type of job and doing the type of roles that you might be interested in, one of the things I've sort of discovered really early on is that if you sort of volunteer to help people or volunteer, people very rarely say no. And so what I did when I first started out, I found somebody that was already doing very much the role I wanted, and I got them to help mentor me, and I used to shadow her, and I used to say, can I shadow you to these things so I can learn from you? And then after a while, she then got me more and more involved, to the point that she was just kind of like, you know, they playing a lot less visible role, and then until I was able to actually just go without her, and we just built it up gradually. And having that practical experience and picking up, it's just good for building up your confidence as well, because sometimes actually doing it and actually having a go at doing it can be quite powerful and prove that you can do it, rather than just following courses, you know.
Yeah, that sort of just learning theory when you're not sure, like, is that really how it happens in the real world, or, you know, like, you know, how relevant is what I'm learning actually going to be to a role, you know.
Yeah, but yeah, if you can find like a shadowing opportunity or anything like that, and sometimes it's even easier, you know, when people are online, because there's no, you know, can't, no sort of limit on sort of room sizes as such, is there? So
very true, very true. Hadn't thought of that.
yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, and LinkedIn, Dave, as well. So, you know, hopefully you're on, like I said, you're on LinkedIn. We'll send some contacts your way and just hopefully just broaden that for you, and start unlocking where you feel like your development capability and strengths are. I think that's really important. Is anyone else that wants to have a quick chat with us? We've still got plenty of time, and I know David, from who's co-chair of the Birmingham BCS branch, he is sharing information with you all on the chat as well. You can look through my previous talks as well. So the one previous to this was the Project Management Office, which is another really fascinating entry path into IT. And I go into why that is, and some fantastic speakers on there. And the one prior to that is a really great top recruiter who talks about some of the competencies and softer skills required in the industry. And also, again, I share some roles out there that you probably would never search for. Again, you know, David, the same role might have 5 different names, so you'd never know quite what you're looking for. But I sort of share a few, again, in terms of not really needing too much of a technical background in some cases. And David shared a link from the BCS website called bcs.org/get-qualified certifications for professionals. So have a look for that.
There are lots and lots, there's so many roles in IT. I mean, one of the things I find quite useful is you can always search on lots of the different IT roles there and see what appeals to you. And also you might find that there's different competencies that you may already have in certain areas. So for example, you know, if you're very organized and like to sort of plan things, then you've got IT sort of project management roles. If you're like very analytical, you've got analysis type roles. If you're very thorough detail, you've got testing roles. There's so much out there, isn't there, that can suit, you know, so many people. And it's such a growing area, isn't it, IT? It's one of the reasons why I went into it originally, because it's quite practical and a lot of jobs are available on it.
And David's also shared, if any of you do need any help, you can always reach out to our local Birmingham branch. You can contact on groups@bcs.uk. But David does share a lot of information at the end of this talk as well, so do grab that information at the end. So again, we talked about the unstructured way of building that network and getting your intentions known to people of influence, senior people as well. I know that I've done that quite often, and it secured me some really interesting assignments in my career, which I count as being very successful. And then in terms of a structured way, start to think about seeking a mentor, even using your social media. We've got social media in the workplace, and I tend to use that as well to publish articles. If I've been to an interesting talk or workshop, I will relay that back on our internal social media to the rest of IT. It's doing a couple of things. It's informing people, but it's also demonstrating to the leadership that I've got a really vested interest in what we're doing as a business. And that's on the workplace, but also your own social media. You can become your own social media channel and start to share what you're enthusiastic about, hashtag it so people can find it as well. Another great way of doing that. Wonderful. I think people are really appreciative of the information. Another really good piece of information is Helen's book. So I've been a BA and I've got probably half a dozen books, but I can guarantee you this is probably one of the really wholesome book, I would describe it. It's almost like having a conversation with you, Helen. It's set up in a way that it's led by questions. So I think that's really important. It is almost like having a conversation, and those questions will lead you to quite concise paragraphs. And I say it's wholesome because it doesn't just stop on one topic. It gives you a really interesting holistic view of the world of business analysis. And I think in a lot of our roles, we need to wear that kind of business analysis hat. We need to analyse problems. We need to analyse what the business needs really are. So Helen, I know you've got a discount code for people today as well. If you don't mind popping that in the chat as well. Okay. I think that would be really useful for people. It's already on a discount at Amazon as well. So feel free to either purchase the book or recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, because I wrote it. What it does is it contains like anything that involves change tends to involve some element of business analysis. So either preparing people for change or the types of questions and common problems that people come across. So for example, if somebody says that they need a sort of a project delivery, and it's understanding what those requirements are, how do you go about working out what people are asking for? How do you go about getting the level of detail that say developers can develop something from? How do you deal with change? So all the common questions that I've kind of come across in my career, I've kind of put in a book that has the answers to, so it's very practical. Put it in, and it's also available. That's from the Kogan Page website. Kogan Page is the publisher of the book, but it's available on Amazon, and pretty much any major bookstores all have access to be able to get in the book. It's global, so. But the whole idea behind it was just to make sure that it gave real world examples. So yeah.
Yeah,
I'm very impressed. I can see you've read through it, Jag, because you've got markers in it.
I've had, we've got lockdown. What else is there to do? Because I like the fact that you talk about, as I said, this is so important because it's so relevant to a lot of people, because you touch on the importance of relationships. So again, I'm not trying to push any theory on people. I think what you've done in here is, again, what I'm trying to really convey to people is real stories, real examples, and you've lived it. You talk about relationships, you talk about what to expect when you're going through significant change as well, and when you want to move into a more strategic setting as well, so which is exactly what I did, moved from business analyst into business relationship manager, which is considered a strategic BA really. So you touch on a lot of topics in one neat book.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it should apply to a lot of roles. Even if you're not interested in becoming a business analyst, you don't need the job role to do it. The chances are, no matter what role you do in IT, involves some element of business analysis. So I do cover in the book things such as, how to build relationships with people, what the different roles are in IT, I cover how to run workshops. So a lot of these will be applicable no matter what your role, really.
Yeah. So for anyone that's going to be watching this later on YouTube, the discount code for the Kogan page is uppercase alpha AB MBA H20. So I was going to do I probably won't remember all of it then. AB MBA H20, all in uppercase, and that will give you a discount, but it's also available on Amazon. So we've got a few more moments, and I think what we're getting here from a lot of the interactions are people embarking on change, you know, and wanting to change and wanting to take that next step. What's your view of change, Helen? How do you embrace change? Do you fear it? Do you thrive from it?
Well, I've certainly learned to embrace it. It's one of those things, isn't it? You do have a bit of a fear of the unknown. So I think, you know, it's taken me a while to kind of grasp, you know, this sort of growth mindset of just giving things a go and just seeing where it takes you. Sometimes it's just getting your head around things and understanding how things can be a benefit if it works out, and keeping positive about it. So it's a good thing, but it can be really scary, and it's just working out those sort of small things you can do to kind of, you know, move forward in the areas you want to go to, and not be disheartened, because it can be really disheartening when, especially if you're trying to get your first job or move into a brand new career, you can feel it really disheartening, especially if you feel you've applied for lots and lots of jobs and you're not hearing anything back. But it's like in my sort of story that I was talking to Jag earlier, things don't always happen first time, and it's persisting and you know, not giving up, and you know, that's how things happen. That's how you make things a success.
I would say that, you know, embarking on change can feel uncomfortable, but lean in, like as you said at the beginning, just lean into it, and you'll only benefit from it. And remember that your challenge is not new. So embarking on a new career change is not new. There'll be someone else out there that you can then have that conversation with, and it's just finding that person.
Yeah, I mean, I'll share well, initially, so I got this this global book deal with a publisher, but actually initially I nearly didn't send that off. I wrote this book proposal and I was scared. I was thinking, what if nobody likes it? What if I don't hear back? There's no point sending it. And in the end, one of my friends said, well, you might as well send it, you've got nothing to lose. And then I had 3 major publishers come back in the same week, all wanting me to write a book for them, but I nearly didn't even send it off. So sometimes you've got to be careful you're not your own worst enemy, you know, because if you don't do it, then it definitely won't happen. So I think that's kind of one of the big message I'd want to get across to people is to, you know, don't be scared of trying and leaning in, you know, because things can happen that you might not expect either. So it's a good thing.
Thank you, Helen, for that. Really appreciate it, and appreciate you taking the time. And I will just share with one final note to contact myself, and I'll pass you on to David. So those are just my contact details, and I'm sure you'll be able to find Helen as well on LinkedIn. I've got a very early piece of Instagram activity that I'm just starting. It's still not quite mature, but I'm working on it. And if there's any volunteers who would want to help me with that, great. But do feel free to contact us. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you, Jag. Thank you, Helen. That was a fabulous talk. As a BA myself, I completely reflect on everything that you've been discussing, and change. Yes, you can't walk around as a BA without noticing change in everything that you say and do. So I hope everybody else has taken some insight from this talk this afternoon. Again, hopefully you did see some of the notes that I put in the chat. Feel free to reach out to the BCS Birmingham branch As I said in my note, if you're not sure about a particular role, we've probably got somebody in the membership that either is or knows somebody. So please do reach out to us. Feel free. You don't need to be a member. Obviously, we'd love you to be a member, whether it's a student member or associate or full member. But we are here. We provide a public service as well. So that's the reason why we have local branches. No, again, another fantastic talk, Jag. Helen, thank you very much. If I could ask everyone to unmute and we show our appreciation when we are in person through some applause. But if you could unmute and provide your appreciation for Jag and Helen on this talk, I'd be very grateful. But thank you very much, Jag. Helen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a couple of slides that I can show whilst we're closing down. If anyone's got any last minute questions, we'll be on air until television program. We'll be on air until 3 o'clock. I shall show these slides now if I can find where everything has disappeared to. Hopefully you will see we have still got 4 sessions to go in the series. Three have already played. You've seen the 4th today. We have a YouTube channel, so I put it in the chat, so hopefully you can find that. They're all under early career professionals playlist. So all of the sessions are recorded. So please feel free to book onto these sessions. You'll find them under the Birmingham branch website on the BCS website. Again, I shall provide you with the details now. It's on the next page. So there you go. As I said in the chat earlier, you can contact us on groups@bcs.uk. And even if it's just to find out, well, what's our website or where's our YouTube channel, please just remember that, email us and we'll get back in touch with you. No, thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you very much.
If there are any questions, please you can still feel free to ask them. Just trying to find all my controls so that I can see if anyone's chatting or otherwise. Otherwise, have a wonderful afternoon. I think we've got some sunshine outside, so if it's not too windy by you, hopefully you can get out for a quick walk or something, get some fresh air whilst we still have some sunshine.
Thank you very much.
Someone's just asked whether there's a branch near the Cornwall. Let me just check. There are branches across the country, but let me just see which is your closest one. So it's probably going to be Bristol, Dorset. I think the closest one to you could well be Dorset, Poole and Bournemouth. I suppose it depends whether you're north or south coast in Cornwall. But I shouldn't be too worried about even getting in touch with the closest one to you, because a lot of the events and their engagement, certainly at the moment, will be virtual. So it kind of doesn't really matter which one you do get in contact with, but when they do start opening face-to-face events again, then you may well find that Dorset being Poole or Bournemouth. I'm just trying to see, there isn't anything else.
I think I'd be nearer the sort of south coast, really. So that would, probably the Dorset one is ideal. Thank you very much for your help, David and Helen. Jag.
If you, I mean, the BCS website is bcs.org, and then the menus will just follow the membership one, membership, and then member communities. All of the details for the Dorset website are there. And the branch chair is Richard Gunstone. Again, you can get in contact with all branches through groups at bcs.uk. So you just need to address it to the most sensible, closest or whatever branch, and then the HQ will forward it for you. But it sounds like I'm just looking at the past events. They've got they're really active. But they've got loads of events that they've just run. But again, if you look for events on Eventbrite, you'll find BCS events all over the country. And again, you don't need to be in their area. And there are also specialist groups which aren't specifically regional, but they may focus on a particular area, like cyber security or data management or business analysis or things like that. So it's it's a cornucopia.
Thank you very much for all your help and ideas and advice. Very much appreciated. Cheers.
Well, if you get stuck, please feel free to get in touch with myself or my co-chair Tom Goodman. Even if it's just because you've met us, we'll point you in the right direction or help wherever we can.
Super, thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Okay. Anybody else got any questions? I'm about to close the session now. Okay, well, I wish everyone a wonderful afternoon, and join us on our next session in 2 weeks' time.
Thanks, David. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Helen. Thanks, Jag.
Bye.